Hello and welcome back to Logical Magic, examining Esoterica. Today's just a solo episode. Again, numbers indicating that you either want to hear me and Jacob at the same time. So I have not been having many interviews. I don't have a lot of interviews planned going forward, but I do have a lot of topics planned for you. And today's topic is actually about how to be more grateful, how to experience gratitude, and how to be thankful. And I am going to put this up on Thanksgiving. I had a different episode planned for Thanksgiving, and it just kind of came to me that this was the right time to do something about how to experience more gratitude. Because being grateful in life and experiencing gratitude is one of the things that can instantly elevate your vibration. It can improve your mood. It can improve your outlook. It is one of the ways that you can sort of self-manage your emotional condition to have the best life experience that you can have. And it is difficult sometimes because we have a lot of depressive disorder in this country and in this world. A lot of people have experienced a great deal of anxiety. These are very uncertain times, and there's a lot going on in the world. And then there's a lot of isolation in this world as well, particularly following COVID-19, the lockdown, and the changes it brought to maybe even how we view each other and how we interact in the world. And the idea that we are ultimately kind of always alone with ourselves. And that can sound very daunting because one of the things that psychologists tell us over and over again is that isolation is deeply damaging to people. It doesn't have to be. And part of the reason I wanted to put up this gratitude episode on Thanksgiving is it occurred to me that there are a lot of people who don't have a place to go on Thanksgiving. There are many people who feel excluded from the national narrative of this family unit. I read tarot for a living. I get a look into people's personal lives through what I do, and I'm not going to disclose anything that's privileged here. But what I do see is that for those of you who feel alone or excluded, or like maybe your family is a hotbed of dysfunction, you have a lot more company than you think you do. Very few people have the family structure that we are kind of indoctrinated in a lot of ways to believe is the norm. It's not the norm. It's a little bit of a rarity. To have a really good family structure requires a lot of emotional health and some healthy boundaries, which we're not great about teaching within family units. So that's all why I decided to do the episode about gratitude and the way it can transform every single part of a day when you know how to reach for it. One of the things that historically has become a shaming technique is actually one of the easiest techniques to do basically a reset on your emotional energy. Now, before I even talk about the reset, let's talk about the role of self-love, self-talk. I will do a whole episode on self-love, but we're going to talk specifically about allowing yourself to have down moods sometimes, to be angry sometimes. As long as it's not destructive anger that is lashing out at others, it's normal. It's normal to have emotional fluctuations in life. One of the pressures in the spirituality community to always be light and love and it's all positive and everything's a lesson negates entire emotional realms within feeling beings, and it's not what we're trying to achieve. There is a role for detachment that will help alleviate a great deal of suffering, but frankly, a lot of spiritual communities take detachment just one step too far, and people aren't very grounded in their own existences, and it can cause a lot of challenges and cause a lot of problems. So the first thing to know is that when you're having a feeling, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to acknowledge, I'm really angry right now. And to, as you're feeling it, kind of try to figure out why, what's going on. Usually at the root of most emotions is fear. And that it makes sense with everything we're talking about in this very, very anxious society. And to just acknowledge it and then give yourself permission to have that feeling. It's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you're sad. It's okay if you are experiencing hopelessness. It is okay. And this is how you speak to yourself. You tell yourself it's okay. You tell yourself it's okay that you're anxious. It's not going to last forever. And that is, honest to goodness, the path out of most negative mood swings is to understand that if you take the appropriate steps in responding to your feelings, then you will be able to put it behind you. It doesn't need to overwhelm you. It doesn't need to be the thing that you're stuffing down. And unfortunately, so many people are taught to stuff their feelings down that they get this kind of backlog of emotion and of energy. So that's the first step in it, is just saying it's okay and kind of enumerate the reasons why you might be struggling, why you might be angry, why you might be sad, why you might feel isolated. And then start talking to yourself about, and this is where gratitude comes in. And the thing that used to be used to shame people is actually contains the real solution to the idea of being stuck in a bad place. And that is to count your blessings. Now, honest to goodness, it has been turned into this way to be like, hey, stop complaining, you big whiner. And that doesn't do any good. Listen, we can all get stuck in like a repetitive cycle around emotions where we're stuck in an endless processing loop and don't get to the releasing part. And the releasing is the important part to be able to move forward in a different energy. And when you're healing from trauma, you can get stuck in that processing for a while, and be patient with yourself. And to know that everything is transient, everything changes. We're not meant to live in this constantly blissful state. We are meant to have variation. The kind of the severity of your moods can also indicate the level at which you can experience things in a very positive way. So that people who are very, very sad sometimes, when they are happy, can have tremendous joy. It is okay to be somebody who feels something deeply, but when you are people who feel something deeply, and I attract a lot of healers, a lot of teachers, a lot of people who want to participate in helping others, and they're usually very empathetic. And so their feelings are just like, wow, they're big. And when you have big feelings, you have to have a very robust self-care protocol around them. So after you've acknowledged your feelings and understood them and maybe even talked about them, and this is where the role of isolation comes in to making something worse, is some people don't have someone to talk to and they can't afford therapy. And you just need to learn how to talk to yourself about your feelings. So you can do that very, very literally. Almost every smartphone in existence has some form of voice memo or voice recorder, and learn to talk into that. Even if you're by yourself, listen, there's nobody around to judge. If the government is listening, well, crack them up, tell a few jokes. Who cares? It really does not matter. You will never have any control over what other people think of you. Figure out the ways to make yourself feel better in your life. But if you are stuck in a processing loop where you can't let go of a negative emotion, this is the way out. It is to learn how to talk to yourself about what you're feeling and why you're feeling it. You talk into voice memo, and then at a different point, you put it in on headphones and you listen to it while you take a walk or something. And by the way, the role of exercise in changing your mood cannot be overstated. If at all possible, if your physical health allows for it, get some movement in, at least a 15-minute walk every day. Now, if you can't, try chair yoga. These are all of the things I'm always saying, is to find the way to get your energy flowing. You need to move a little bit. You need to be a little bit more in flow. Find the ways that work for you, and physical limitations are real. And so do what is within the realm of your possibility, and don't compare yourself to other people. And then what you want to do is to start talking about the things you are grateful for in your life. And I'm going to tell you really honestly that part of the reason I decided to do this was I woke up in a terrible funk. I had done a group reading for YouTube yesterday and recorded it, and those always just kick my butt entirely, because I'm basically reaching into the energy of a lot of people to try and bring them messages, and they were archangel messages, so it was particularly draining. And what happens to me afterwards is I frequently will, having given all my positive energy into something that is going to be dispersed to a group, I hit a low point. And I'm very aware of it, and I'm very aware of the fluctuations that come with it. But I woke up in a funk, and I went to the botanic gardens that I go to. And while I was there, I was doing my grounding exercises, I was calling the corners, all the things that are part of my celestial and angelic magic practice. And I came to a spot where I've cast a permanent circle, and there's a tree there that's almost like an altar for me. And I came to that spot, and I just wasn't in a good place as I was continuing to call to the east for air, the west for water, or south for fire, north for earth, which is celestial and angelic magic corners, and the archangels that correspond to them. And as I opened my mouth to say something, because normally I would be calling for something in something that I'm trying to do, or something I'm trying to achieve, or something I'm trying to heal. And frankly, I'd been stuck in a long healing pattern after a lot of trauma. And instead, what came out of my mouth was, I am really grateful that I have such a beautiful place to come. And then what kept coming out of my mouth was the things I was grateful for. I'm so grateful I have a place to live. I'm so grateful I have a car that I enjoy driving and works very well. I'm so grateful that and it just went on and on and on and on and on. And I realized at the end of that it was not something I was making up. It was something that was all very true. And it made me feel so much better. And that is the key to resetting your ability to feel thankfulness and gratitude and abundance. And if you are by yourself at Thanksgiving and you're really struggling because this world shames people for not having families. I'm somebody who's never really had a family, and they always treat it like it's like weird or my fault or something. It's like both my parents were only children and they both kind of sucked, and I have to avoid my family because they're very, very, very unhealthy. And there's only like 2 people in it, other than my son, who got transferred to the other side of the country. And in something that was really, really good for him. And he's so happy there, and it makes perfect sense. And a lot of what I went through trying to make sure my son was helped, and that he had a really good shot at a better life. And so every time I get something from him that indicates that he's happier, I know that what I went through in a long and, difficult experience in a marriage I couldn't leave because my son was on my ex-husband's medical insurance, and my son is a type 1 diabetic. And so I really was very, very trapped. And I knew that part. And then after I wasn't trapped any longer, I understood that I needed to get my son to California to help him have a better life. And I don't know how I knew that, but please remember what I do for a living. I just knew it. And it turned out to be true. And I'm so happy that he is happy in the things that have opened up for him. And he's living in the right place for him now. And I have a really good feeling for his future in a lot of ways. And the thing being is that would then, kind of leave me alone or on major holidays. And that's fine. That is 100% fine. When you are in an isolated situation, you have to be your own best friend and your own company, and to treat yourself with as much love and kindness as you might another person. And that helps tremendously. So if you are suffering from isolation, if you are suffering from an inability to release some trauma, first of all, inability almost has a connotation of fault. It's just about the depth of the injury sometimes, and not having the tools to be able to process and release and to heal. And you just keep at it until it's done. Everything will change if you keep putting in the effort. If you keep putting in the effort, every now and then we try to pursue something that isn't for us, and we ignore signs. Like that with what I do with tarot, that is one of the things that I do is I help people find out if they're on the right path. And we can all try and head down the wrong path, but there will be signs and there will be blockages and there will be barriers, and everything takes time to grow and to flourish. And it can be a long and tedious process. It's not the same thing as ignoring. It seems like something keeps blocking me here. If you keep getting blocked at something, find out why. Look within or go to somebody you trust, a therapist or a reader or a healer. And therapy is amazing to help you understand what's really going on in you. But again, not everybody can afford it. So once you've gone through these gratitude exercises and keep doing it, it's honest to goodness, there is something in your life right now that is a wonderful thing. It can be the sun shining on a tree. It can be beautiful birds. It can be like this desk that is it's just a war horse. I swear it could be. It will probably survive all of us. It is something that got on sale years ago, but it is the most solid piece of furniture you've ever met. Whenever I move, then the poor movers are just like, oh no, it is a really solid piece of furniture. It's a sturdy thing in my life, this reliable thing in my life. And I have so many of those things in my life. And taking stock of what your life is at the core of gratitude. And why do you want to inhabit gratitude when it feels like everything sucks? You'll feel better. So that's the very first thing is don't worry about what it'll help you manifest and it'll help you heal, although it will. It'll make you feel better right now. And it might, as you're really struggling with things, be a temporary sort of lift to your spirits, and you'll have to go back to your emotional work. But if you keep digging out through what's going on, what have I felt, what did that do to me, and how can I do better? That kind of personal accounting we all have to go through as we're healing, it will get better and it will consistently stay there. And please remember, if something took a very long time to be formed in you, it's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of time. And by little, it could be 2, 3, 4 years sometimes, but it's not always going to be at the same level of, I'm just going to use the word suck. It's not always going to suck as much as it does at the start, when you're really just like, is there so much grief in here, it will never be over? It's eventually over. Eventually, if you keep trying, you can heal whatever wounds are within you. And you just have to believe that you're worth that effort. And sometimes it will mean that you feel things that make you uncomfortable, but it won't last. The discomfort doesn't last. And it becomes effortless when you get into a healthy rhythm of, I don't ignore my feelings, I allow myself to feel them. Now, that doesn't mean showing them to everybody, by the way. Everybody is different. Now, I'm a slightly emotionally reserved person, which always cracks people up, because I'm an introvert who presents as an extrovert. It always comes as a great shock to people that I'm practically a recluse. Because even like in a face-to-face meeting, like, I come off as an extrovert, and I'm quite simply not. I'm an introvert to the very marrow of my bones. It can take some time to go through all of your stuff, and it does sometimes mean spending time alone to do so. The key to health, to emotional health, is finding a level of comfort in being with yourself, because that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about how do you achieve this thankfulness that will alleviate the I can't take this anymore of the modern day world, which is really what happens. People get stressed out, they get anxious, they get angry, because something that's making you feel horrible can make you feel angry after a while, because, screw you, divine, why me? Why anybody? And life, unfortunately, does contain suffering, but it does pass if we put our energy into, why is this hurting me? Let me understand myself so I can have a different outcome going forward. So those are some exercises around that. Always, I'm telling people, eat something healthy and drink a nice big glass of water. It helps more than you can possibly know to bring yourself into as much balance as you can. Some form of exercise helps. I've said these things before. I will likely say them over and over again until they are tattooed into everybody's brains, because they are the keys to the kingdom of emotional well-being. Is self-care. Treating yourself in a very healthy fashion will yield healthy results, which means that you will feel better. But on this day when it's a strange holiday too, it has a strange history. It's like, be very grateful and abundant. And it's like, how did we teach those indigenous people after they helped us? Let's not talk about that one. There is absolute worth in simply celebrating abundance and not, nitpicking everything for what the origin story of it is, because there's a lot of messy stuff at the root of most tradition origin stories. There really just are. Sometimes we have to choose to take the good in a situation. And that is another tool in thankfulness and gratitude and what I just talked about. That being in the woods and being in this kind of funk, and I kind of even woke up in pain, which is not normal for me, but I have gone from going up and down the stairs for 30 minutes at a time to, I don't know what possessed me, but I decided I would start running up and down the stairs, which it has been going well. But oh my goodness, the level of pain in particularly my hips in the morning sometimes reminds me that I'm very, very fit and very, very lucky to be able to engage in so much physical activity, but that it does not come at cost-free sometimes. Sometimes it comes with as you get out of bed in the morning. And that was what was going on. So part of what was making me a little bit sour this morning was every single step hurt. And so I'm out in the woods, I'm hiking, and I go to this little place, and all this gratitude comes pouring out of my mouth. And I felt so much better. And that is where mood management comes in. And it can feel very empty as an exercise as you're doing it. But the reason to do it is you will feel better. It will uplift your mood. It will make you see that everything you're imagining about the future, everything that you see going forward, that's exactly what it is right now. It's your imagination. You don't know for certain. Even when I give tarot readings, and I'm a good tarot reader, I can tell people what's coming up. But there are going to be things that are missing from that picture because we don't get to see everything we're not meant to. You don't know what's going to happen going forward. Everything could change tomorrow. And even if it doesn't, that doesn't negate that everything could change at a different point. The idea of divine timing is it will change when you are ready for it to change. And if everything you ever wanted came to you when you didn't know how to take care of your sadness, your grief, your anger, that is part of being a human being, so it will come back, then you would still be that level of happy or unhappy if you had everything you think you want. So that is also part of the reason to remember that part of a spiritual journey is being asked to learn how to inhabit thankfulness and gratitude. And it is not the same thing as my life is rosy and perfect and everything is great and grand and beautiful and wonderful, but rather that there is something worth celebrating in this existence, even if sometimes it feels so very empty. And during the very beginning of this like healing journey, where I had to deal with like, all the childhood stuff, but then how it had led to successive poor decisions in my relationships, and that had compounded trauma and damaged me more. And like having to like take a look at that, it's like, well, what did I do to like help facilitate this in my own life? So how can I do better going forward? And it wasn't about blaming or shaming or not liking myself, but recognizing that it's like, well, I participate in my outcomes. So what do I want to do differently going forward? Life is a learning experience. But when it first started, it was so sad and so painful, and there was so much grief that I had never ever confronted, like going back to that weird childhood where people were dropping dead and all kinds of things and getting hit by trucks. I only laugh because it's almost absurd. It's almost like a black comedy level of like, what else could have gone wrong? It's like, well, inventively, all sorts of things. But it's not truly comedic. It's just more, I almost like, it cracks me up in that it's a lot, but it also was just my life. So it just felt like normal. And looking back, that's why it makes me laugh. That's why it makes me laugh. Is I can look back and go, there's nothing normal there. Wow, that is a really abnormal situation. No wonder I ended up in a very challenged state of mental health for kind of a long time trying to unpack trauma, because that would be understandably traumatizing. And there are people who still have it far worse. And I'm very aware of that. But being able to unpack that grief and all that trauma led me to being in a very low place for a long time. Now, I did not go to a medical doctor and get an antidepressant. I was afraid of what it might do to my ability to read as a starter. And then secondly, I didn't want to trade one form of dependency for another. I'd been in a codependent relationship where I lost my entire identity to it. And if I didn't make this work, then I was going to be a failure. And that whole thing where people get judged for not having families came into it. And it's like, well, this is my only idea of family. I'm so much happier, by the way, in a situation where it's only what's going on with me that determines how I feel about life. I don't walk on eggshells any longer. I don't have to live in fear of somebody with a reactionary emotional state who takes moods out on other people as a way of life. Everything's a lot better for me, but at first it was really hard, and it felt like the most empty exercise ever was to sit and be like, what are you grateful for? I like that painting. Oh, look, there's a butterfly. Good gracious, there's a bluebird. And honest to goodness, I felt like a chump doing it because this felt ridiculous, and it helped so much over time, and particularly as it became such second nature that as I was in that park today, what I opened my mouth to say was a form of invocation, and which is just a form of, like, if you want to call it prayer, you can call it prayer because it is celestial and angelic magic. So basically, I'm talking to angels all the time. I opened my mouth to say something that was an invocation, and instead what came out was a litany of things for which I was grateful, including, like, having this beautiful and secluded enough spot that like I can talk out loud. And like, if anybody hears me, because of the area that I live in SoCal, they're very likely to treat it as being like, well, that's kind of normal. There's a lot of people who do yoga. There's a lot of people who do energy work. There's a lot of people in this area of the world that are, we're a little bit woo-woo. We're a little bit, crystal and crunchy and hippie and granola. And so things that might be treated as odd in other places are fully accepted as being like, well, that's that person's practice, whatever they might be practicing in. And I did feel so much better. And it kind of made me realize that when I do have low points, like they last maybe 20, 30 minutes before I'm able to do emotional reset, because I went through that long period of like, do I feel better? I only feel marginally better. And I'm also sick of being so grateful for birds, but whatever. It worked. It's worth doing. Start giving it a try. And this is the part that you need to hear why you want to. Because when we talk about divine timing, when we talk about abundance, when we talk about manifestation, being able to inhabit an energy that is receptive to the world is what gratitude is about. That's what it really is. If you want a magic to work, if you want manifestation to work, if you want your business endeavors to work, if you want anything in your relationships, your friendships, you have to be receptive to life bringing you something rather than looking forward with a narrow view in which everything's just going to keep stuck going forward. So what's the point? And that is, again, this is an observation to help people spot their patterns. It's never about judging or shaming or saying you're getting what you deserve. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to be in flow. You deserve to live the life that was meant for you. You deserve to inhabit the purpose that you came here to enact in this particular lifetime. You deserve every good thing. And what I also am always talking about is you do not have to tell yourself you're perfect to know that you are deserving. The fact of the matter is nobody is perfect. We are always working on ourselves to overcome that shadow side. Just accept that part of yourself and know that you are fully deserving. But that in order to remove any rigid structures, attachments to outcomes, we have to remove absolute thinking and extremism. And negativity and cynicism is a form of extremism. Looking at our fellow man and saying, I can see the ways in which this nasty thing is perpetrated and that hatred is perpetrated and that greed is perpetrated. Therefore, in the cynical view, it doesn't matter what I do, there's no point. If you tell yourself that, then that is the life you'll have. If you tell yourself, yes, these things exist and I can still make a difference, I can still have a happy life, I can still contribute to this world in a way that will, even if it only makes things better for 5 people, that's 5 people whose suffering is alleviated. And that is honest to goodness at the root of almost every purpose that we have, is we are here to help one another in alleviating suffering. And it's not just supposed to be my clan or my family or my group. It really is seeing the humanity in all. But in order to get to that place, you do have to heal and you do have to find that ability to be grateful. So beyond the whole enumerating what do you have to be grateful, every time that you find yourself in a spot where it's like, well, I did all the things and it still didn't work, do something for yourself that is an act of self-love. Make sure that you are doing something that will be kind to your spirit, to your feelings, to the inner child within, to the part of us all that hopes for love and deserves love. Do something, whether it's, renting the movie that you want, whether it's making the snack that is, something of an indulgence, whether it's allowing yourself to have a gigantic bubble bath, or whatever it might be, changing your sheets so that when you get into bed at night, you have fresh sheets and that perks you up and makes you experience gratitude for the existence that you're living. Do something kind for yourself. And if that's a little bit foreign to you, that's what you're trying to heal. That's what you're trying to heal. If the idea of being kind to you is like, it doesn't count unless it's somebody else, it's like, that's what you're trying to heal. That one, that thing where you don't know that you're deserving of every good thing. And so if somebody else isn't around to participate in it, you should be. This life is finite. It does not last forever. We waste so much of it worrying and being stuck in the idea that just because today is a little bit difficult, that means tomorrow's going to suck too. That's not the way life works. Life has variation in it. It's like the weather. Sometimes there will be storms. Sometimes the skies will be clear. Sometimes the earth will shake. Everything is brought to us in varying degrees and to varying energies. Energy can never be destroyed, but it can be transmuted. It can be changed into something else. If you take control of that process, that's what manifesting is about. That's what the law of attraction is trying to talk to people about. Now, I'm all over the place talking about why it kind of doesn't work the way it's put forward. because it tries to amputate the sad side, the dark side, the part of ourselves that we're supposed to care for, not ignore and neglect like a kid that we're sticking into a closet. That is a part of you. Take appropriate care of it. And as I was just saying, if doing something nice for you, if treating yourself with the same love and kindness and kind words that you would extend to somebody else's suffering is foreign to you, that's what you're trying to heal. And even if it feels incredibly awkward at first, that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. You have to learn to speak to yourself as kindly as you would somebody you dearly love and are trying to encourage. When you learn how to do that, you need far less from other people. And when you need far less than other people, you're far more powerful within your life. And when you are powerful within your life, you believe in your ability, you have the confidence in your ability, you have the confidence in your energy and your magic, and all things good that comes with what? Gratitude. And it all circles back to that, is finding what makes life interesting, even if it's a book series, even if it's a TV series, if it's a pet, if it's a plant, it doesn't matter. And by the way, if you will only be grateful for things that are permanent, then you will not be grateful for much of anything, for nothing in this life is permanent. Literally everything will change. Literally everything. It is the constant within life. And unfortunately, we live in societies that teach us to fear change because it means the good thing that you love right now is going away. But it does not then mean, it does not then follow that something better is not coming along to replace it, or that there is worth in learning to adapt, because adaptability is exactly what we're talking about. That is what is the root of learning how to inhabit gratitude and joy and the belief that all things are possible. And when you believe that all things are possible, if you simply continue to try, and all things are possible, please understand that too many times we focus on stuff and material things. And all things are possible. Please listen to me. If somebody were to walk up to you and say, I will give you $1 billion right now, or I will give you the ability to always be happy and content with any given set of circumstances, the wise choice is to choose the ability to be happy. Because I don't know if you've seen some of the people in the very upper echelons of wealth, but happy, contented, and functional is not necessarily how I would describe them. They're frequently deeply out of touch, alienated from other people. They have to fear other people trying to take advantage of them, because realistically, some people are. It is not, it's just the life with more stuff. And if you were to choose happiness and gratitude and the ability to change things in the way that you want, that doesn't mean you wouldn't have stuff. It just means that your life and your happiness and your joy would not be dependent on it. If you learn to make your joy and your happiness in this existence dependent on your relationship to how you feel, who you are, whether or not you're experiencing something that is worth experiencing, regardless of whether or not you have everything you want, then you become so powerful. Then you become somebody who is manifesting the life everybody would want, period, regardless of what kind of stuff accompanies that. And as I'm always saying, I am a Taurus. I do like stuff. Now, it's a little bit of an empty thing for me, because kind of not really. I'm the person who carries the same purse until like it falls apart and I replace it. I'm not much for a lot of the accoutrements of materialism, but I love comfort. I absolutely love comfort. I'm just saying, honest to goodness, people are so unhappy and they wonder why. And it is because they keep looking for happiness and love and joy and contentment in inanimate objects that cannot love them back. I mentioned my son at the beginning of this, and there was a point where I lived in the state of Missouri, and I was there for please don't get me wrong here. I met some of the nicest people in the frickin' world to this day, the best human beings I've ever met in Missouri. but it was not a place I belonged because it is very, very traditional. And if you've not picked that up, I am not. I tried to be because I thought that would yield happiness. And then I found out that it's like, oh, no, I'm not meant to be that person. So I was in Missouri, and like from 2 weeks, there was, I was there for about 2 weeks before I realized I cannot live here. I cannot stay here. This place would, like, I couldn't tell anybody about any forms of magic that I did. Like, quite literally, people would have thought I was evil, which is amusing to me. So there was a lot of like not being able to get very close to people in Missouri for me. But I did meet some wonderful, wonderful human beings there. And when I was in Missouri, we had this amazing, amazing, beautiful house, far bigger than a house than we ever really needed. And it was like the backyard looked like something out of Downton Abbey. It was amazing. It was all very grand, and I was very uncomfortable with the pretension that went along with that for me. That was where I really started discovering that it's like, I don't, I vibe better with a blue collar set of folks because those are the values I was raised around. And there is too much conformity and too many. The point is to have as much stuff as possible and not stand out as much as possible. And that's why well-done houses always feature neutrals all over the place. The only neutral thing I like is Sweden. I like to watch nature walks in Sweden. Like, I'm convinced it neutralizes my energy or something. So I was in Missouri in this beautiful house, but we couldn't afford to keep it because it was the wrong purchase in the first place. And then the place that my ex-husband was working for was not a place to invest a career in. And so I arranged a sale for that. And I really do mean that I sold it. Like, that was one of the things that I absolutely did manifest while I was there. And I have a feeling a couple of people who knew me understood that it was magic, but like, I didn't outright tell them that. So I sold that house in that particular area. And when I told my son about it, he said, but you loved that house. You guys love that house. I was like, never love a house that cannot love you back. You can love your surroundings and understand that absolutely everything can change, and it will not negate the worth of the experience of loving it. I did love that house for what it looked like, and I did not love it for what it was concealing, which was deep happiness and a lot of societal problems in a condensed state. It was an interesting experience, and the entire time I was there, I knew I was not going to be able to stay there, but I just kept telling myself, I'm so grateful I got to live here at all, because it was beautiful. Oh my God, so beautiful. Walking the dogs in the morning, surrounded by trees. There were ponds. That you couldn't really go out into the fields because the ticks would eat you absolutely alive. And that's what I'm talking about, of the undercurrent of it looked like one thing, but it was another, which was my experience in that state. But understanding that loving something and then wanting to keep it forever in order to justify loving it is an empty exercise. And we're talking about gratitude and finding the joy in the moment. Every single day, there is something you could find to be happy about. Now, some people are suffering from tremendous amounts of pain, and then the last stages of cancer. And please understand that we are talking about beyond extreme circumstances. There is something in your daily life, in your mundane life, that is beautiful, that you're overlooking because you're too busy focusing on that thing in the future that contains the things that you think you want that you don't have right now that keep you from happiness. We will only ever be in the present moment. And when people talk about the past being memory and the future being imagination, the past contains your lessons. Never just dismiss it as having no worth. It contains your patterns. It contains your mistakes. It can change the things in which you can learn and have a better path going forward every single day. You can have a better life experience if you learn how to inhabit the gratitude for what you have today, and not then weigh it up against but I don't have what this person have, and I don't have what I think I want. And I keep saying think I want because as you heal, you will discover that your wants get smaller and smaller and smaller because you're content and you're happy. And if other people view that as like not the type of life you should be trying to live, like, don't you want more? Don't you want the big house? Don't you want the big car? Don't you want the? That is something from which they are suffering, not something you should inhabit. Honest to goodness, it is the idea that we need to live in a constant state of acquiring more and more and more and more and more and more that keeps people so discontented and unhappy and in a state of something other than gratitude. So today, on a day where we talk about thankfulness and counting our blessings, please try to find the things for which you are grateful, whether it was a good laugh that you had, a good book that you read, a nice walk that you took, a sweet dog that you might have in your life, a great cat. So a good friendship from the past that you can recall memories from, even if that person is no longer in your life. The fact that you can have good memories, because that means you have the ability to remember and you have cognitive functions that are still serving you well. Give yourself some credit for the idea that if I find a way to be happy, then every single day will be better just because of that. And I don't have to have what I want to be happy. I simply have to find the value in what is around me in every single moment. And there is so much value. There are things that you can't see, but over on this wall, I have some artwork, and then I have this really cute lamp that acts as a bounce lamp. And I got it for like $30 on Lamps Plus on clearance. And it's a bargain. Like my half Scottish soul is like, woohoo, bargains. And for some reason, it makes me so happy to see it every single day because it has this illuminated spot on the wall that is a chart for some astrological movements that I put up there. And it just makes me feel secure and happy and as if this place is my own and I never need to worry about what somebody else thinks of it. And it puts me in touch with the idea that no matter who is in my life or who isn't in my life, I have the ability to shape my life in a way that will suit my current desires, my current needs, that I am the person who has power in my life. And throughout my home, and this has been in every single home that I've ever lived in, I have little views. And like anybody watching this on the video version on my YouTube channel, like there's a weird little painting on the wall behind me of a hot air balloon. And the reason I have that is many years ago when I lived in Colorado, a traveling art salesman came to the door with these knockoff prints. And I don't know the original artist on that one at all, but I bought that from him. And it was like all of $30 and it made his night because he hadn't been doing well. And God help him, he was walking around the suburbs of Highlands Ranch in Colorado. And it was just an overall wonderful experience. And it adds this continuity to my life, the artwork that I have. And there's another painting in the hallway above the stairs that people can see as well. It's actually a photograph of a 1953 cotillion in Vancouver, British Columbia, that I got when I was in Vancouver. And there are so many things in my life that remind me that even if there was sadness, even if there was difficulty, there are beautiful memories. And I have access to that energy. And even if I didn't have anything, I would have those memories. Please start embracing the idea that gratitude is not being shamed for not wanting what you have right now. But in gratitude lies true power to know my life has things in it that make it worthwhile. And when I start viewing my life as worthwhile, I won't spend my time in disappointment, in bitterness, and feeling excluded. Instead, I will find the ways and the means to be kind to myself. And when no one else is near me, as we head into the holidays, I always worry about people who feel very isolated. I have spent the majority of my time alone as a human being, just period. I've talked a little bit about my background. It's definitely weird. I really did spend ridiculous amounts of time alone. And psychologists will tell you that's terrible for people. And for me, it's absolutely normal. And it did put me into a place where I've always been a self-entertaining unit. If you want to be grateful for your life, stop looking to other people for your happiness and start looking to yourself. And it's not about selfishness. It is about empowerment. Understanding that you can defend yourself against any negative forces in this world if you believe in yourself, if you treat yourself kindly, if you talk to yourself like your biggest cheerleader and your bestest friend, then you will have somebody with you at all times who will help you overcome, who will help you in every set of circumstances to feel better, to find gratitude, to find joy, and to find belief. And the reason to inhabit gratitude is not simply that there is a day in the calendar year where everybody eats turkey, unless you're me and you don't eat turkey, where everybody eats turkey, and it's supposed to be about celebrating the bounty of life and the harvest that comes with hard work. Everything in your life that is available to you contains within it an invitation to see what's good about it. And even in the most stark or simplistic of circumstances, because I really don't live in a posh place. It's a little bit run down and falling down, but it was a place that would take my dogs, so it's where I live. But it's beautiful in its own way, and it's funky. It looks a little bit different and a little bit old and a little bit run down. And in so many ways, the ways in which I've made it a place that feels like home prove to me that I have power in any set of circumstances. And that's what you're really looking for when you're looking for your gratitude. And when you find gratitude, then you will realize that abundance is within your grasp, and that the small things that you have, if you can find joy in them, you become the most powerful person you will ever meet, because your joy is not dependent on what other people can do for you, in the stuff that you have, in the way other people make you feel. You become truly powerful and aligned and integrated with self and living a purposeful life. And it is the path towards everything getting better. And there will be highs and there will be lows. And when you experience a low, that's what you start doing, is you start finding the things that make you happy. Do you have a cologne or a perfume that you like? Not everybody has that. Does your shampoo smell great? That's something to be, even if everybody in the world has great smelling shampoo, it's still wonderful. Flush toilets are amazing. Aren't they the coolest things? Do you know through much of recorded history, people did not have that available to them? The wonder of the modern world, the fact that we have smartphones that can tell us our global positioning at any moment, that can tell you on a whim, hey, you know what I want to know about the Byzantine Empire? What the heck? You can Google it and there's going to be information there. You practically have a wizard in your pocket. If you're listening to this, you have a smartphone. You have magic that would have stunned somebody to hear about in 1950 if you told them everything that your phone can do. You can order groceries and someone will bring them to your door, sometimes at an exorbitant cost. But what a miracle so many of the things we take for granted are. That hot shower that maybe you're not taking the time to experience for how beautiful it feels. Another fairly modern invention. Absolutely, the fact that you can go downstairs or into another room, and if you have enough food to eat, that is another blessing of the modern world, is access to resources. There are so many wonderful things. You're a YouTube video away from laughing your butt off right now. This is a time that gives us the ability, that facilitates our joy, that facilitates our connection, that facilitates our ability to step into our energetic power, to find gratitude, to find abundance, and to find joy. Everything I do is meant to be timeless, but I wanted to get this up on Thanksgiving, because if you're listening to this on Thanksgiving, it's probably because you're not with a group of people, or the group of people that you're with, you're trying to spend some time away from because they cause you as much stress as they do joy, which happens with families as well. And this is the way to feel more grateful, to know that there is beauty and wonder and amazement in every single thing that is around us if we'll look for it. Honest to goodness, like, I'm going to take a sip of water here when I get done. I'm looking forward to it so much because talking all this time makes my throat a little bit dry. And that will bring a beautiful feeling of relief. And then all in front of me, I always have these stained glass flowers all over the place that started with the stained glass flower, the columbine, that sometimes is seen in my YouTube readings, that was given to me by my son when he was 12, and that started an entire collection. There are so many small and beautiful things in this world. Find the joy in what is available to you right now. And if it feels a little empty because your heart's broken, because you're suffering from anxiety and depression, Know that it will help alleviate the suffering to the degree that it can, and that only you can really choose to go towards that. Now, this is where I wrap up with something to please keep in mind. Major depressive disorder is real. It does mean that your brain chemistry has taken a turn for that it needs help. Whenever possible, I encourage people to go towards natural solutions, because then you're not dependent on whether or not CVS's pharmacy is open, or whether or not everything is like, there was an Adderall shortage for a while. I don't know if it's still going on, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about with, if it's possible to find a non-pharmaceutical remedy, do that first. But if you're deep in the weeds, if you cannot find the sun, no matter how brightly it is shining, please listen to me. There's help. There are methods and means. You can eat from lists of foods that are about anti-inflammatory foods. Look those up. It is believed that the root of all disease is inflammation. Start giving yourself a leg up in what you choose to get a better outcome. And when you are stuck in the sadness and the difficulty, in the everything sucks, how will it ever get better, is you look for the thing in the right here and the right now that you do have. Even if it's just a way to reach out to the world through your phone, that opens a world that, I'm going to give you an example. Imagine being a chronic insomniac in like 1963. Didn't that have to be the world's most isolating experience? Everybody's asleep. There's nothing to watch on TV. It's just you and, light and maybe a book, and like just how lonely and isolating it would be. In this world, because of the technology that we have available to us. And again, if you're hearing my voice, you have it available to you. I'm quite aware that there are people who will not even have that available to them. Please try to remember them. Honest to goodness, if you're thinking that's not a blessing, everybody has it. No, not everybody does. You have a way to connect. You have a way to find interest. You have a doorway. You have a key to that doorway to step through, and to know that more is on the other side of a decision. Make the decision to find your gratitude, and you will feel better. And when you feel better, you find hope. And when you find hope, you start believing everything is possible. And when you start believing that everything is possible, you act like things are possible. And when you act like things are possible, you start having things come to you because you're making them happen. And that is the role of gratitude. Have a beautiful, abundant Thanksgiving. Have a beautiful, abundant life. Have gratitude for the existence that you have, and even your ability to feel. Because even if you're feeling the worst you've ever felt right now, a mood change is the only thing that is standing between you and feeling happiness and joy and connection and resonance and belief and everything that is worth celebrating. Have a beautiful, thankful Thanksgiving. No matter who you're with, know that you are never alone, because you have your divine self, you have your spirit, and you have your soul for company. Take care. Be well. This is Logical Magic, examining esoterica. If you want to book me for a life coaching session or a tarot card reading, that is at therisingmoon.com. Only way to book me. You can find me on YouTube as well at cronecast at the Rising Moon, where I put up these videos, and then I also do tarot readings. I've got a Patreon and some other things coming, but we're going to leave that for the next episode. In the meantime, enjoy your day of abundance. And if you're hearing this on something other than Thanksgiving, know that absolutely every single day can be Thanksgiving. Take care. Be well.